All right, we're rolling. This is Freedom Phil. Like, subscribe. If there's one thing I've grown a certain level of disdain for over the course of my life, it's religious people that hide behind God for why exactly they choose not to get their life together. And I say choose for a reason, especially people in a first world nation. I have some understanding if you grew up in some third world part of Africa or South America or something. I get it. But even then, a lot of the times while you're poor in those third world nations is you just can't keep it in your pants. He can't keep it in, and you can't just stop letting him do you. You know, you're just like, oh God. Well, we were raised poor. Let's make more poor people because it's fun. Yeah, by the way, that's the topic, and that's what we're talking about. And once again, as I always say, hey, this isn't a channel for kids, even though I know what I teach could actually save a lot of people's lives. A lot of time, retirement by 30. Live as minimalistically as possible, but God forbid. I'm just like trying to raise the tide by pissing in the ocean. So if you're a parent letting your kid watch my stuff, you're probably a bad parent. You're not really paying attention to what your kids are doing. Yeah, Freedom Phil, like, subscribe. Let's get into this. I like Dave Ramsey. I don't agree with everything he says, but I agree with the vast majority. You know, I'm not a religious person for the most part, but I know a lot about it. And one thing I've always had a huge amount of disdain for are all the fake ass people that follow his channel that hide behind God. Yeah, a lot of some of them are true believers, but the ones that hide behind God, well, money's not that important, blah 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 blah. Really? It's not that important? Then stop taking other people's money. Huh? Oh shit. No, wait a minute. You're talking about me getting a job or something? Huh? All these Jesus people they talk about. That one guy was like, I'm like, no, I don't empathize with broke people. You can be retired by the age of 30 in America, or 7 to 10 years. Whether it's truck driving or, you know, going out becoming a plumber or an electrician. Oh my God, hard work. By the way, trucking is ridiculously easy. Free apartment on wheels. There's a lot of ways you Christians could be serving each other, but a lot of it, let's be honest, when it comes to a lot of your religions, here's what it really is. It's literally a fashion club, a social club. You notice how they say that don't worry about wealth in this life because the streets will be paved with gold. Isn't that convenient? That's a good line because then that makes it okay when the systems, the governments are fucking you over, you know, for multi-generations. It's okay that you suffer in this life because you'll have something better in the next life. And so it actually, ironically, gives an excuse for lazy poor people to piss away everything they have. I mean, our entire system is designed to teach you to do that. And then if you're not pissing it away as a conscious thing, like, you know, when someone goes to the bar every night, you know, that's just part of their routine and they piss away their paycheck. We can look at that and say it's bad. But when someone goes out and buys a brand new vehicle that they frankly can't afford, they buy a house that's way overpriced. They're over everything. And it's all on interest. It's all on credit. Now, you could say, yeah, see, the creditors are the evil people. But it's kind of like the joke of the deal with the devil, the crossroads. You go to the crossroads and make a deal with the devil. Devil didn't come to you. You went to the crossroads. And why? Because you just wanted an easier life earlier in the game without any work. You saw what was on TV. You saw what your friend groups, churches, whatever, whoever you're with, what they were dressing, wearing, and the life they're living. You wanted that. So you go and buy it on credit. When you don't have the money to bait, you know, this is one of the things that always got on my nerves. And I see a lot of the same, just like with Democrats, you know, pro-abortion Democrats. I see the same freeloading bullshit coming out of the church, where they'll talk about, oh, money is evil, the system, the 1%. I don't remember any monopoly man in my life ever showing up and going and fucking me over. No. I remember times that I made mistakes. It's kind of like the Jimmy Buffett equation. At first, here's what everybody does. I think it's her fault. Then maybe it's my fault. And then when you finally become a fucking adult, it's my own damn fault. That's a lot of life. And then trying to keep up with the Joneses. Where in the Bible does it say you really need to do that? The Bible, the Torah, the whatever, the Quran, the whatever the people in India believe, and where does the Buddhist saying you must have all the bling, you must have the the nicest things. No, it doesn't say anything about that. I mean, maybe the Ferengi, if you want to go like Star Trek, you know. But even then, funny thing about the rules of acquisition and all that is it basically tells you how to make money, save money, and become better. Something respectable about that. When you're taking the best years of your life, young religious people, young non-religious people as well, you're taught to go into debt just for education. You're taught to go into debt for cars, clothes, and crap. You are literally taught to think in reverse. Everything about our society is teaching you that. So when I come along with minimalism, and I'm like, I can live off less than $100. The base bills for me, my lifestyle out here are under $100 a month. Yeah, I hit up food banks, whatever. You pay taxes, you paid for that food. You should get something back. Well, let's say $300 a month. I can do that as a trucker. I could do that as a dishwasher. I could do that as a contractor. I could do that as whatever. Let's say maybe a little more. Let's make it a little more. Let's say I found, here's something for all you religious people, you Jesus Bible thumpers. If you got people in your church that are struggling to get ahead in life, especially when they're young and they haven't fucked up their life by having children they can't afford to feed. I know you all think children are a blessing, but I'm going to be real about this. They're actually quite the burden when you don't have the money to feed them. And then they become a burden on the system, they become a burden on the church, they become a burden on everybody else. This is why we used to have something called standards. You'd have that man go out there and prove himself first. Whether that was, becoming a blacksmith, something. He's got a farm, he's got something. He has to actually prove that he's a man worth having your daughter marry. We lost that. And we replaced it with credit and college and nonsense. And not that all college is bad, but a lot of people that go to college go for useless fucking degrees because they just don't want to work. And they'll be like, I'm college educated. I can't name the number of times I've seen family members do that shit. And I'm like, yeah, and yet you're only doing this good? Why aren't you doing much better without 4 years of education? I saw people, like for instance, they did the military, I think it was 4 or 6 years, and then they had 4 years of college education, and their job has nothing to do with what they actually, the reason they got the job had more to do with their military service. The fact that they have a cursory understanding of what the fuck they do gets them by. And it's no disrespect to the individual I'm talking about, but in that 10 years, if you were a trucker or a plumber, and by the way, Christians, for God's sakes, if you're an older plumber, electrician, get these kids while they're young and get them trained to be electricians, plumbers. Even if they never do it, they'll save their money. And then you as the group, whether it's Christians, Muslims, Jewish people, Hindus, whatever, you get with your own people or maybe some of the neighboring groups and you could build a whole ass house. Oh, they complain about the cost of housing. Hey, good Christians, why not come together and build houses together? This is why I have a lot of respect for like Orthodox groups or the Amish. Because they practice what they preach. They actually live the way they believe. You understand how powerful that is? See, I might think a lot of what religious people do is fucking stupid. And I think a lot of people that believe in religion are just fucking fakers and charlatans. They don't really actually believe. Like, okay, well, you want to know a test to see if you truly live in that? I got to give the Muslims credit for this. Like, especially the hardcore ones in like rat shit countries, and they really believe. If you were forced to live with no better technology than what was out when the major creation of your religion happened, like let's say Jewish people, you get real ancient technology. Christians, you get about what was around when Rome was here. And Muslims, you get 700 AD technology. Watch how many people would ditch that damn belief 2 seconds later. And they're like, yeah, but we like our stuff. How many people do you see, for instance? They go out there and they'll take the early service so they can go and worship the NFL. This is another thing. These people. They'll sit there and say, oh, it's sinful to do this, sinful to do that. Did you shop at Walmart on Sunday? Did you go to a restaurant on Sunday? Did you contribute to someone else living in sin? Because, hey, it's after church, let's all go out to eat. Why not go home and cook your own goddamn food? Now, most of you, your religion is a social club. And that's why we have the term Sunday best and all that. Put on your Sunday best. Last time I checked, Jesus, Muhammad, and all these others, they weren't really that concerned about what you were wearing. They're concerned about where your heart and your soul were. And you really got to put that together. You really got to think about that. Do you think Moses said, worship at the altar of the cow? The golden calf? Fat fuck Americans, it's the Golden Corral on Sunday. There is so much that you believers could do for each other and your fellow man. You don't even have to be a believer to do this. Like I said, you got a place in the backyard that somebody could rent out. So they don't have to they don't have to pay an absurd amount of rent, to where they can actually get ahead. If people prove that they're actually good, worthy people, like if they could put a tent up there and actually get ahead working their job, would you do that? And the answer is, for the most of you, no, you wouldn't. And you know why you wouldn't do it? Because it would make you feel uncomfortable. What are the neighbors going to say? Boy, you're so concerned about your everlasting soul, aren't you? You're so concerned. When I said ages ago retirement by 30 or 7 to 10 years, there was no joke about that. There was no joke. These materialistic things that you cling so wholeheartedly to, that inevitably you will fail. They will be around. You will die. Your body will fail you. And the materialistic things will either be in the dumpster, the car crusher, or they'll be passed on to somebody else. These materialistic things that you obsess about. And we're not talking about good investments that pay you money. We're talking about stuff, shit, crap from the Dollar Tree. You know, like, you ever see one of those old ladies that just likes buying those damn figurines? Boy, those will be useful. Those will ever have a market value. Maybe a few of them are kind of cute and whatnot. But shit, at some point, the only real use you could get out of some of those figurines just is literally target practice. How much crap you fill your life with. And if you just avoided that when you're young, if you avoided buying the cars on credit, the houses that are overpriced, oversized, all this crap, you avoided that. And you actually focused on, while you're young, live as debt-free as possible, or any time of your life, 7 to 10 years, whenever you start, you could have that money working for you. To me, that sounds more closer to God. Because there's no part of what I just said that says, you're worshiping money. You're not. You're just not being a fool with your money. Think about that for a second. You're not going out there and screwing other people over to make money. You're merely being wise with your money. That is closer to whatever afterlife God I've heard about over the course of my life. In fact, most of what I see in most churches, most groups that talk about it, is the absolute opposite. With the exception of people at like food banks and whatnot, they're actually trying to do the work of the Lord. People that go out there, like you see garbage on the streets. There's no reason it has to be there. Any group of people could clean that up. Actually building the glorious world that you believe will happen afterwards. Living as the example, But that's a bridge too far for a lot of you. And so you got poor people that hide behind, money doesn't matter, it's the eternal spirit. And then translation, they're living off the system. And then the middle class or rich people in the church that, they've got to show off what they have. God forbid they help their fellow Christian, Muslim, Hebrew, whatever. I don't care. Same thing for the atheist. There's no reason. There's absolutely no reason that you, as groups of people, couldn't build a better world. But that requires effort. At the end of the day, most people's religion is just a giant disguise, a cover. It's just a fashion trend for you. Peace.